that we could literally save you $150,000 a month, like tomorrow, is that worth 10, 15 minutes? Now that becomes a stronger call to action versus like, would you be opposed to finding some time for an intro call?
Now what you're doing is you're illuminating a problem they might not be thinking about. And you may be identifying that they have a problem, but at an earlier stage of their willingness to solve it, but it does exist. Therein lies a really high quality prospect that will most likely require some follow-up until they're actually ready. All right, welcome back to another edition of Outbound Fluff, No Sales. I'm one of your co-hosts, Ronan Passar. With me is my business partner, Ryan Reiser. We're the Outbound operators.
Little yin and yang action today. White, because last time you confused blue. So, making sure we're not twinning.
Man, well, today we're going to get back into a second part of yesterday's episode, objection handling. We're going to get deeper into the ones we didn't cover. If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe. Feel free to drop a comment in the section below to let us know if there's anything you want us to stay focused on or cover in the next episode. Let's dive right into this one, Ryan. When I get the person on the phone, I complete my pitch, and they go, "Yeah, no, we're all set. Thanks." What do you do from there?
We're all set. Thanks. I mean, you have to give me more context because there's too many variables at play here. I actually have to understand the scenario, right?
All right, let's take it through a real one. So this happens with one of our clients, Precoro. They will go through the stages: intro, title confirm, pattern interruption. Then they get to the pitch, and the pitch is completed, and the prospect goes, "Yeah, we're all set. We got something for that. Thanks."
Okay. So sounds like you have X, Y, and Z handled. Like, I mean, again, I need a little bit more in terms of where we're at, the personality of the person, what was going on. Were they just yes, 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 no, we're good? I mean, it's very different than actually answering questions, getting deep into it, explaining. I mean, in the Precoro's case, if they were getting through this section, they would have said if they're using an ERP or if they're using something like what is it, Ariba or whatever the hell is on top of it. So NetSuite or whatever. So there would have been more context potentially. And if they say it's all here, so it sounds like what I'm hearing is this. Just the last thing I would say, just to qualify, sounds like maybe your ticketing volume may not be at a level that makes this a big problem for you all. Like just out of curiosity, you guys, doing more than like 150 transactions a month, right? So I would ask another question. Verily, it sounds like this is probably not a pain. Is that because you guys are just not doing enough transactions? That's probably one of the reasons.
Wait, so this is brilliant, because what Ryan's doing, for those of you who are watching this, he's breaking down the objection to seek to understand more. And so by saying what he's doing, he's recapping direction that he's hearing the prospect go in. Is that because, when it comes to your volume of transactions, you're not doing more than, 1,000 a month? What he's trying to do is go deeper into the clearer answer of it. If you say you're all set, is it because you're not a fit for what we do? Are you just trying to politely get me off the phone? Do you have competing technology already in place? Let's understand what that means, because one of the most common things I'll see the cold callers in our system do wrong is they'll tag the outcome of a call with not interested. And when I ask them, what specifically did they say, so you could listen back to the call, but what specifically did they say that made you understand that they're not interested now? They can't describe if it was because they have a competing solution, they're not a fit for what they do. And if you can't describe it, you didn't actually understand anything from that conversation. You didn't walk away with enough of a learning. So to peel back one more layer and to understand where your buyer is now, you got to seek to understand. Ryan, I really like what you say. There's no such things as objections. It's just communication.
It's information, right? And so we need to seek to understand. So, like, again, context matters quite a bit here, and this is very common in every cold calling scenario, right? It's interrupted communication. You're intruding on someone's time. They're still in this fight or flight mode. Hopefully, you've de-escalated their guard a little bit by establishing some dialogue and realizing, oh, this is just another human, I'm talking to them. And context matters a lot, because how engaged are they in this conversation, and how much information have you gotten from, are they the right person? Are they dealing with this type of problem ahead of getting that result of we're all set, or I don't think would be interested? Then you want to go, okay, that's sounds like, based on what I just shared, you are the right person. You're using these types of things. But most of the time, people are not interested at this stage because of something, right? And that's why I would say the way I'd respond to this one for Picoro is, so it sounds like maybe you're not doing enough volume of transactions for this to be a big problem for you, right? So are you guys doing at least like 150 invoices on a monthly basis? I think that's like the
Mm.
baseline for them. It'd be the same thing with management controls. More often than not, it's either the wrong person because they don't have oversight of the problem. So that one of the questions would be like, so it sounds like you don't have like a personal responsibility for managing the earn to burn, right? Budget and timeline for projects being completed under budget on time. That might be something to ask. Or sounds like this is probably not that important because, usually the folks that are most interested are spending at least 10 million in contractor labor on their sites. So I'm getting to a level of qualification and I'm off because this problem isn't big enough for them. So we want to be able to seek to understand at the very end why we're off. Call Blitz, great example. I don't think we'd be interested. It sounds like maybe your reps aren't like calling remote. Everyone's in the same office, right? I mean, that would be like a prime example of that. Like we're
And,
we're all
and
we're
what
all
you're and
set.
what you're trying to do there, Ryan, is you're actually trying to, by clarifying, also disqualify or qualify further. Meaning, we're just trying to take a step forward. Is this prospect who represents the company, are they never going to be a fit? And so,
Correct.
in the example of Callblitz, which is a virtual sales floor that can integrate with any dialer to bring your cold callers that are around the country together, if you're going to use Callblitz, but all your reps are in the office, you probably won't be a fit for Callblitz because your reps can just get into a room and make dials together. So they don't need a virtual way to do that. But if you have a virtual sales force and your reps make cold calls, there's value, and this is the value prop of Callblitz, in having them get together in a virtual environment that is built for cold callers, that allows for listening of other calls and coaching and feedback and other things while the callers are making their calls. So if the person I'm calling for Callblitz says, yeah, no, I just don't think we're going to be fit for this, we're all set. Okay, if you don't mind helping me understand, when you say you're all set, do you mean, so I like to give them the menu option. When you say you're all set, do you mean A or B? So do you mean that like your team is just in office already and you don't have a need for a virtual sales floor to bring your reps together? Or do you not have a team of like SDRs who are doing cold calls right now? You just have outside sales reps.
Yeah, that's not a bad strategy. I tend to lean away from giving people multiple options as
Options.
well because you'll find that typically the second thing you say is the one they'll trigger on anyway, or they might even be like, yeah, they'll even give you that like, yeah, exactly that. It's like, well, you just gave me two things. It's important that you also quantify in some capacity, right? The difference between saying sounds like you don't have a team that's really focused on calling versus like, oh, it sounds like your reps don't make like at least more than 50 dials a day, like they're really committed to calling. You see the difference between the two?
Mm.
Because it's like, well, of course everyone makes some calls, I'd imagine. Well, I mean, we do see some that make next to zero, but like when they're like, we don't do any calling, it's like, so you don't do any sales, like 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 you're not following up at all. But the quantity component makes it a little bit easier to get a real answer. That's why I like the ticketing use case of like, well, it sounds like maybe this isn't a big enough priority, you're not doing enough volume of transactions. If you're selling marketing services and someone's like, yeah, I think we're all set, well, it sounds like you guys are probably not spending at least like over $1 million a month on paid ads then, right?
Mm.
Like, I don't know what it is, right? So coming up with a quantifiable number associated with the problem helps identify, like, are they actually listening to what you have to say and do they understand the impact of what your business is trying to drive. So if you could get down to the right, our product or service is solving some sort of business problem and there should be some sort of like unit value of cost savings, revenue growth, maybe security risk in some capacity. But if you could get it down to in each of those cases, you could come up with some sort of metric that would then see if it's like a big enough problem, like if it was a security solution. So it sounds like maybe your team's only like a handful of people monitoring if your reps are clicking on nefarious things. Probably not a big problem for a team of two versus 1,000.
500. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Quantifying it. You know what you're doing actually, if we wanted to like analyze why that works. If you've ever read the book Gap Sales by Keenan, he describes this phenomenon. It's you're identifying the current state versus the future state, and then how big or small is the gap in between where they're at now and where they want to go. If it's a small gap, that means that they don't have a lot of incentive motivation to change that problem. If it's a wide gap and it's a critical issue, they're going to have a lot of incentive to want to change it. Same thing is true when you're doing cold calling. You're doing these micro discoveries along the way. You're trying to learn a little bit more about where are you at today, And how does that compare to where you want to be? And oftentimes we know from the math of markets, like it's going to be a smaller gap for a lot of people as how they are framing the problem today. It could down the line, that could change. The gap could widen, or it could become a more pressing issue for whatever reason. But most people are not going to be looking for what you do right now.
Right. I mean, and the entire point of that initial conversation is to, again, identify, do we have the right person in the right
Yeah.
role at the right company, and do they have a problem that we can solve right now? And depending on how we messaged what we do and how we do it and who we do it for, at the end of it, it's about trying to get into them understanding the size and scope of the problem, and you identifying, like, are they going to experience the pain big enough
Yes.
for then you to then come back around. It sounds like, again, sounds like you don't uh sounds like you might not have enough transactions going through for this to be a problem. Are you guys doing at least, like, is there at least 150 invoices going through your system, whatever it is for the core
So
use case,
Ryan,
right?
let's
So then we can go back to, sorry, to complete
yeah.
that concept. So then you can go back to, if they said no, of course we're doing more than that. It's like, oh well, if most of the people that we talk to, they're doing over 150 transactions, what they find is that there's like this gap, to your point. Like, they're missing out on like at least 10% of that. If I could show you it's possible to save 100,000 for every 1.5 million in transactions, would that be worth 10, 15 minutes? Now you can come back with a stronger call to action, or
Totally.
or a follow-up question on that would be like, oh, you're doing more than that. Like, what's your average invoice? Like, is it, $10,000? Okay, we're talking about like 1.5 million, we save 10%. I could do the calculation in my head. So if I could show you that we could literally save you $150,000 a month, like tomorrow, is that worth 10, 15 minutes? Now that becomes a stronger call to action versus like, would you be opposed to finding some time for an intro call?
Yeah, that's incredible. And it's a really great response, actually, Ryan. I want to just reiterate that one more time. If they come back with a response that gives you the check mark that, like, oh, actually they may have this problem. Now what you're doing is you're illuminating a problem they might not be thinking about. And you may be identifying that they have a problem, but at an earlier stage of their willingness to solve it, but it does exist. Therein lies a really high quality prospect that will most likely require some follow up until they're actually ready. But someone that you can have a conversation with and say, I don't know if you've been thinking about it this way, and you just framed it perfectly. But oftentimes we'll see other clients who are in the same situation as you realizing a $1.5 million savings when they did A, B, and C, which is exactly what I was calling. Would it be a terrible idea if we were to find some time next week where I could show you a little bit more, or are we totally off on timing here?
Yeah, exactly. And that can translate to anything. So sometimes there's a problem, sometimes it's a missed opportunity, right?
Mm,
Oh, wow, so it sounds like your reps are making a lot of calls. Like, there's lots of ways you could frame that, but again, it's about seeking to understand, and to get a full completion. You can't just get the response. You have to get the response and ideally the why. And that's where you're going to get a much stronger list for future follow-ups, even if it's a not interested now. That doesn't mean it's not in the future, and that should be pushed into the follow-ups, versus if it's a not interested because not qualified, low volume of transactions, then we probably don't need to follow up with them, right? Unless their business model change.
exactly. All right, let's do 3 rapid fire ones. So the first one's going to be, you know what? I'm so sorry, but like I got too much on my plate right now. Can you just try me back another time?
That sounds like you got like, a lot on your plate right now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to close the books by the end of the year. I'm not going to even pick my head up until mid-January.
Yeah. Well, right now doesn't sound like it's the right time for this. The intention for the call is really to find time when it makes sense, another time in the future, to have this introductory conversation. So, end of the year is gonna be busy for you. Why don't we do this? You want to pencil something in for like that second, third week of February or January? I mean, you're just trying to go for a micro commitment into the future at that point. One of the things that reps tend to do often is they try to force the cause and not listen to someone's situation. And they're thinking
Yes.
short game, like try to shove them into a meeting now, where it's like, hey, like, respect that. And then, of course, when you follow up and they keep giving you that bullshit, then you might get a little bit more tactical depending on how much you believe you can serve them. And that goes back to all the stuff we just said. Like, I understand you're busy now. You're probably going to be busy in the future as well. But let me quantify this a little bit on your list of priorities. But I wouldn't do that in the first time I get it. I would just respect their time. Sounds like now's the
Exactly.
worst possible time. Let's.
Yeah.
You think you're gonna be a little bit more free like that the first or second week of January? Yeah, yeah. This could be better. Cool. Why don't we
Awesome.
do this? Let's put this in
Awesome
the.
response. Don't steamroll them. All right, next one is hey, yeah, you know what? Even if I wanted to check out what you do, we've got a full on company wide budget freeze right now. We're just not spending anything. So there's no point in even looking at a tool right now. So yeah, we just don't have budget for anything.
I mean, no one has budget for anything when we first have a conversation. Again, I'm not. I use this line all the time. We're not looking to box you in the corner or sell you anything today, right? Most of the things that someone's bringing to market are going to be complex, long strategic sales anyway. This is an introductory conversations. Again, topics matters. When did that come up? If someone's saying that early on, it's probably a brush off.
Brush off.
If it's later on and you've gone through all of these stages, it's like that's completely okay, not a problem. We're not necessarily looking to get you to move forward at this stage. This is an introductory conversation. We want to have an opportunity to sit down, learn a little bit more about how you're blah 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 blah, and share how we're helping other people's do it in this way, so that you have a full understanding of if this is something that might impact you at some point in the future. If budget is the only concern outside of that, based on what we shared today, would it still be worth 10, 15
Ooh.
minutes just to learn
Oh,
what's
that's
available?
nice. Oh, that's nice. If budget weren't a concern, would it still be worth 10, 15 minutes just for an introduction? I like the way you're framing that. If you're watching this and you're in B2B sales, you know that it's not a one call close. You're likely going to go through a series of evaluation. Um, Frame it that way. Like, look, everyone starts with hello to take a look, an introductory call. That could include a demo, that can include whatever it is in your case that it might include. Frame it as such. Don't sell the product, sell the time in this case, and also respect the answer. If they come back again with a hard no, try them back. Try them back
Yeah,
6 weeks later.
yeah. I mean that one comes up. That one comes up pretty often, but it's like no one's trying to get you to buy on that next call. If it is a higher ticket item, it's about literally understanding. I mean, I don't expect you to
Yeah.
buy anything outside of budget. If you guys have a budget, if you operate on a budget, this is literally exploring. Do you even see this as something that you should put into the operating plan in the future? You don't even know who the hell we are. So you want to frame it in that way.
All right. Stay tuned for more of these. If this was helpful, hit the subscribe button. As always, drop a comment in the section below for anything you want us to cover in the future. And stay tuned. We're going to have a lot more episodes just like this one.